Now, the Trade Minister, Lord Green, has said he regrets the conduct of HSBC whilst he was chairman at the bank and acknowledges there were failures in how it handled allegations of money laundering. Despite a US Senate committee inquiry concluding that insufficient checks between 2006 and 2009 allowed drug cartels and possibly terrorists to allegedly launder money through HSBC, Lord Green said he has no plans to resign from his role in government as he has no case to answer personally for the bank's failings. Well, Chris Roebuck is the banking analyst and visiting professor at Cass Business School. He now joins us. A very good day to you, Chris. I mean, let's pick up on this point about this man having no case to personally answer for. These problems emerged during his watch, so surely that means he does have a case to answer.
The key question is, do you make the assumption that if anything goes wrong in any organisation at any point, that the chief executive has to go? We haven't seen that many ministers leaving when things go wrong in their departments. And if you carried that to the ultimate conclusion, you would have chief executives resigning every single week. The point is that there was a leadership failure, there was a failure of systems, but that was potentially at a local level. And the fact that certain people within the political world have been hinting and suggesting that Lord Green might have known about it but didn't bother to do anything about it is utterly outrageous, given that he is one of the most respected people in British business and he's actually a part-time preacher in the Church of England.
Right, but let me jump in here.
Yeah,
the point is that we're not talking bit part players. We're talking terrorists, rogue states, various other undesirables. Money was laundered. Now, nobody's saying that you should resign. It is a point about knowing, taking responsibility. It happened during your watch. The buck stops with you. You're the man in charge.
But as I say, you have to distinguish between whether he knew and let it go ahead, or whether he was unaware of what was happening. If he was aware of what was happening and did nothing about it, he is patently culpable. However, given the character of Lord Green, it is quite clear that if he had any inkling whatsoever that this was going to be going on, he would have stamped on it immediately. Let's not forget, this was not actually specifically HSBC itself taking directly money from drug traffickers. These were agent banks, particularly in Mexico, whose controls were not as good as HSBC's. And this is a problem not just with European banks, and more European banks will be in the frame as the investigation continues. These problems continue in Latin America, in Asia, in India, with banks out there that still have worse controls than European banks.
Right, but then the point surely is that, or the other argument is that he had two jobs in this organisation. Yes, he was overseeing a bank whose standards were pretty rigorous. They were coupled doing business with banks that were slack. Is it possible that he was likely to take his eye off the ball because he had two roles within the bank, the chairman and the CEO?
I don't think that was relevant. I think the key issue was what was happening on the interface between HSBC in USA and their Mexican partners. And I suspect what was going on was that HSBC were potentially being told by their Mexican partners that actually they were being rigorous in their assessment of where money was coming from. And let's be honest, these are not people who turn up at the counter and say, "Excuse me, I'm a drug dealer, can you launder this money for me?" They will have a system of front companies, and even the regulatory authorities and the police in various countries have significant difficulty getting to the bottom of where money is coming from. So for somebody on the counter in a bank, and particularly if a bank says to you this money is okay and you're HSBC, it's very difficult to find out that it's not.
OK, Chris Roebuck, we'll leave it there, but thanks very much for joining us.